My name is Colm Tóibín. I'm an Irish novelist. I've written novels like Brooklyn and The Master and Nora Webster. Well, I suppose if you're Irish, there's always a question of identity because, for example, I speak English, because the relationship between, say, Ireland and England has been gnarled and strange and difficult over the centuries. And on the other side, we have the United States, which has become for Ireland a sort of saviour or a sort of mecca or a haven, which sometimes is illusory. So those two countries, the large countries, press in on my country. What else is there except our relationship to other people? That every day, in the way we work, in the way we love, in the way we live, who we meet, how we deal with people. And that always brings with it a complexity. That's never simple. I mean, I think you have responsibilities as a writer, and they are simple. They're to the reader. And the reader is not a fool. Therefore, the reader is not going to take, oh, they all lived happily ever after, or sudden fortune, they won the lottery, and they all had plenty of money, and they all fell in love, and they all lived forever. It's not like that. I think one of the issues about talking about literature as a universal thing is that before it's universal, it must be parochial. In other words, it must be set in a particular place at a particular time that belonged to one person. And what the reader does then is they enter into the spirit of that person. I think the great heroic tradition of the novel in English and in French in the 19th century was to make one person, one spirit. And so the reader could share in that spirit. But it wasn't as though the writer set out at the beginning to make something universal. I think the writer set out at the beginning to make something particular. And it was that particularity that makes the difference. My first reaction when somebody asked me about making a film of my novel Brooklyn was, can you get me Nick Hornby? Because Nick Hornby is an English novelist. So therefore he would know something about how a film like that, which is so Irish, locked into the experience of Irish emigration, could actually matter to people outside Ireland. He wrote the screenplay, and I didn't even have a phone number for him or an email address for him. We did not keep in touch as he was working. What happened then was, at the beginning, we couldn't get the money to make the film. We were very lucky not to have the money, because in those few years, the actress Saoirse Ronan grew from being 16, 17, 18 to being exactly the age we wanted her at. That we got this star who had never played an Irish part before, played every sort of character except an Irish character. We suddenly found that we had a great star really starting out her career playing somebody from her own country. And I think for all of us, including the producers, this idea mattered of migration, of what it's like to move from one country to another. It sounds like a simple story, but everybody has their own version of it. And so we stuck to the simple story. And Nick Hornby trusted my novel. That, in other words, he didn't compete with it. He set about making a screenplay which was faithful most of the time to the book, except at the end, where he added something that actually I found the most moving part of the film. So for me, it was a painless experience and remained faithful to the book. And I got to go to some parties in Hollywood. And my experience on the airlines was that everybody was incredibly polite and smiling and warm. And it was it was great. It was just perfect. Sri Lanka is a mixture of things. You have the Buddhist, you have the Muslim, also the Tamil and the Sinhalese. Actually what you have is an island that only seems small if you measure it. If you go to somewhere like Kandy or Sigiriya, you're in a world apart from the world of the south coast. That the coastal Sri Lanka is one world where you can see the influence, for example, of the Dutch. But once you go into the center of the country, you get something beautiful, intact and strange. The earlier world is what is most fascinating for outsiders. The fact of the ancient cities, the sense of an ancient and intact culture. That makes the island absolutely fascinating.